This is Kate McComb. I'm Apricot's Director with responsibility for safeguarding. I've also undertaken training to be our designated person for child protection. Safeguarding is the highest priority in all we do here at Apricot. On some level, I think we all instinctively know what safeguarding is and why it's important, and it's unlikely that anyone with an interest in working with children would argue that their welfare shouldn't be our first consideration at all times. But safeguarding is something that also impacts upon learning. As teachers, we know that in order to learn effectively and to develop appropriately on a social and emotional level, our students must first feel safe and secure in order to then be receptive to education. Now, safeguarding is an enormous subject, and this little tutorial is intended really just to address the most practical aspects of it that are most likely to impact upon your day-to-day dealings with young people here at Apricot. So let's have a look at what we want to cover here. For me, safeguarding is something that works in two ways. To begin with, nobody wants to be part of an organisation that has failed the children in its care, so we're going to look at how we safeguard our students. Secondly, as teachers, I'm sure you don't want to teach for an organisation that's failed the teachers in its care, because you are lone workers out there, and we do have a responsibility to acknowledge the fact that you are dealing with some quite difficult youngsters. So we're going to look at how we safeguard you as teachers. And finally, we're going to look at how you report concerns as and when they arise. So let's begin with a formal definition of safeguarding. The address at the top of this page will take you to the full version of the DFE publication, Working Together to Safeguard Children. Now, we're not about to cover all 97 pages of it right now, but just for the purposes of defining safeguarding, I'd like you to look at the 4 bullet points at the bottom of the page that have been taken from the introduction to this document. So we've got protecting children from maltreatment, preventing impairment of children's health or development, ensuring that children grow up in circumstances consistent with the provision of safe and effective care, and finally, taking action to enable all children to have the best outcomes. So over the course of this tutorial, you'll see how we interpret these statements at Apricot and how we implement them at operational level. Now, let's start by looking at the most important people in our company and the reason why we're all here in the first place, and that's our students. Now, young people are generally referred to Apricot because they can't access or don't function successfully in mainstream settings. I always say that there are as many reasons as there are referrals for pupils ending up at our door, but there are some common themes, and we'll have a look at those now. So mental health issues can include anxieties, depression, tendencies to self-harm, obsessive compulsive disorders, eating disorders and that kind of thing. Physical health problems can include stuff like chronic fatigue syndrome, long-term illness or treatment for conditions like leukemia, or recovering from physical injuries and surgery. Challenging life circumstances could be things like domestic violence, gang affiliation, family breakups, or being victims of abuse. Bullying is something that can take many forms, from verbal and physical bullying to cyberbullying, and in extreme cases bullying has been known to result in suicide amongst young people, so it is an incredibly serious issue. Cyberbullying is unique in that it can follow the victim wherever they go, meaning that not even their own home is a place of safety anymore when the mobile phone in their hand is what's connecting them to the perpetrator 24/7, and as young people tend to spend an increasing amount of time in the virtual world, so the reality of this threat of cyberbullying increases accordingly. Some students might be experiencing extreme frustrations that come with the inability to express themselves or to communicate effectively. That could be due to things like autistic spectrum disorders, very low literacy levels. They may not even be speaking English as their first language. Repeated or long-term absences from school for whatever reason can result in significant gaps in learning, and that can lead to low attainment and a lack of progress, and that in turn can affect self-esteem and self-confidence. Chaotic lifestyles might lead to cycles of behavioural or emotional issues that can manifest themselves in a variety of ways. Challenging behaviours might lead to exclusion from school. Young people might involve themselves in inappropriate activities or antisocial behaviours. They might start placing themselves at risk in some way. This might lead to offending behaviours and ultimately involvement in criminal activity. They could just be refusing education, and that could be from any reason, from a genuine deep-rooted fear of attendance of school to just simply digging their heels in and being stubborn about not engaging. Now finally, in terms of your safety as teachers, we also have to consider that some young people might have learned that making allegations is a terrific way of getting attention or avoiding certain situations, like education for instance, that they don't want to participate in. So these are all issues that we need to keep in mind during our interactions with students. We need to anticipate the needs that these issues might generate. We need to acknowledge the vulnerability of students, show respect for their circumstances, avoid distressing them. We need to look after ourselves, and we need to build positive working relationships with them. Let's have a look then at how we take care of everyone here. So there are safeguarding measures that we take on behalf of our students, on behalf of our teachers, and then jointly on behalf of students and teachers. Any text that's underlined on this page makes reference to specific documentation which is available to you somewhere on our platform, and we'll come back and we'll look at that in a bit more detail later, but for now let's just get the overview. So on behalf of our students, we operate a strict safeguarding policy, and absolutely everything that we're discussing today falls under that umbrella. We adhere to safer employment guidelines. Now, if you've come this far, you'll probably have the impression of me as being a highly suspicious person of everyone that I come into contact with. Don't take it personally, but on behalf of our students, I will have taken some measures to check you out as best as I can. And as an absolute minimum, you will be in possession of a certificate of enhanced disclosure that's been issued by the CRB or the DBS. You'll have had to produce further evidence to confirm your identity, evidence that you're definitely qualified to do the job you say you can do, and also your suitability to work with children will have been verified by external sources through references that I'll have requested from your previous employers. We provide e-safety information on our platform for our students, and they are made aware of this at induction stage. We make our clients and our parents aware of our code of conduct, and we encourage reporting of breaches, and that's just to encourage a collective response to safeguarding. It's not just my responsibility, it's not just yours, it's everyone's responsibility. We restrict access to and we protect student information on our platform. On behalf of you as teachers, we issue a code of conduct which helps you to clarify what the acceptable professional boundaries are when working with young people. We gather risk assessment information at student referral stage, and we make this available to you. We provide you with a sophisticated learning platform that meets all communication needs in the context of a secure environment, so there's never any expectation that you will need to part with personal information and give your phone number directly to a young person. They can use the platform for all necessary communication. And we provide you with a quick reference guide for addressing and dealing with safeguarding matters. On behalf of everyone then, we restrict student-teacher contact through enrolment settings, so no one will ever be taken by surprise and come across someone in the classroom they're not expecting to. We record all of our lessons, which is especially important, not just for safeguarding our students, but also to protect you as teachers against the risk of allegations. We provide you with an appropriately trained designated person for child protection. In the first instance, that's me, and I'm assisted in that role by my colleague Rachel Hayward, who has undertaken the same training. And we generally try to promote a culture of transparency, awareness, vigilance, confidentiality when dealing with sensitive information, but openness of communication. So let's go back now and look at some of those documents I made reference to. To begin with, let's look at our Code of Conduct for online teachers. Now, this is just an extract from the full version of Apricot's Code of Conduct, and that's available to you on our platform amongst the teacher welcome materials. It's founded upon the teacher standards and also the professional code of conduct that's issued by the National Union of Teachers. So we're all here because we care about young people, and especially so about those who are considered to perhaps be a bit more vulnerable. We're all willing to go the extra mile to create good relationships with our pupils, but there are some professional boundaries that must be acknowledged, and you as teachers need to take some responsibility here for safeguarding yourselves against the risks of allegations or suspicions of unprofessional behaviours on any level. So if you don't adhere to these requirements, you do leave me in a position where it gets a bit difficult to fight your corner in terms of defending you if an allegation is made. So to begin with, please don't become friends with your pupils on Facebook or on any other social networking site. We've given you a brilliant platform here which accommodates all communication needs that are necessary for the purposes of interacting on a professional level. Don't exchange personal contact details such as email addresses or phone numbers directly with your students. Now, if you're working in a one-to-one situation, you will have been issued with contact details for an appropriate carer or parent who you'll communicate with for the purposes of setting up lessons. Please don't ask for contact details for your students And if students, ask you for your personal contact details, please don't give them away. We request that you don't use webcams, and in turn we request that you don't ask that your students use webcams. It's not necessary for the purposes of educating our young people, and to be honest, webcams just use up a whole load of bandwidth which you could be putting to far more effective use in the context of your lessons anyway. Please don't request home addresses for your students. Now, in the past, teachers have approached me because they've had a resource that they want to share with a child, and that's lovely. If you're under no obligation to, but if you do happen to have some resource that you want to share with a child for the purposes of enhancing the online education experience, then we're happy to forward those things for you. So please do that via the Apricot office address. Finally, just never make arrangements to meet with your students in person. We're an online education company. We don't do face-to-face tuition, so it's just not necessary. Now, safeguarding is everyone's responsibility, as I've already said, and in the interests of encouraging a collective response to that statement, the above extract from our Code of Conduct is shared with parents and with clients who are encouraged to be vigilant about their child's online safety and to report any concerns to us. Okay, now our referral system has been designed to equip you with all the information that we can get to help you get off on the right foot and build positive relationships with your pupils. This is an extract from our Pupil Information and Risk Assessment form, our PIRA form, and you can find PIRA forms on the platform filed under reports. You only have access to this information for the pupils that you will actually work with. We ask clients to provide this information and we share it with you. Some are better at that than others, and the reality is that in some cases some of the young people that we're working with have dropped off the radar for such a long time that nobody actually knows the answers to some of these questions anyway, which is just another good reason for us to always proceed with caution when interacting with young people we're not familiar with. We don't hide anything from our teachers. If we know it, then you know it. But we expect you to handle this information sensitively. We expect that you're professional about maintaining confidentiality, and we want you to make positive use of this information, which is there to stop you from accidentally treading on the emotional landmines that exist out there and causing accidental distress or placing yourself at risk in any way when working with our pupils. Okay, right, don't even attempt to read all of this now. All I want you to know at the moment is that this document is held on our platform amongst the welcome materials. This is a quick reference guide for you to turn to that offers an overview of how to stay safe online, issues to consider when working with vulnerable pupils, and how to deal with sensitive information. If you only print one of our hundreds of documents for reference purposes, then this should be it. It's an at-a-glance guide to protecting yourselves and your students, and it contains the names and contact numbers of the people you need to seek advice from, or if you want to report concerns. So please make sure that you can locate this on the platform and that you familiarise yourself with the content. But we will just look in detail at the bottom section, which focuses on child protection. Now, child protection is a matter in its own right that sits below the larger sort of general umbrella of safeguarding. Now, as online teachers, it's unlikely that you're ever going to be in a situation where you're going to see signs of physical abuse or neglect in your students, but you are in a position where you can develop a very unique relationship with your students, because although the physical distances between you can be great, the transactional distance between you is actually very intimate. And there's also an anonymity that's attached to working in the online environment, which can, it's the very reason why we succeed where others have failed to educate these pupils successfully. But that same anonymity can encourage students to perhaps be a bit more forthcoming about personal matters and potentially to disclose details that they wouldn't normally share, meaning that there might be occasions where through the very unique insight that you have, you can offer a lifeline that leads to a problem being exposed and addressed. So this part of the form refers specifically to child protection, how you might become involved in a child protection issue, how to handle it if it happens, and how to report it. Now, in terms of reporting, we're at a distinct advantage here because all of our lessons are recorded. Any disclosure, incident, discussion, interaction that's caused concern is going to be captured in its entirety. So there's no risk of you forgetting any details, and all of the evidence is there to dispel any allegations that may have been made against you. So for you, this also means that there are no forms to fill out, there's no paperwork to complete, you simply just need to tell the designated person at the earliest opportunity, and make reference to the recorded lesson, and this is something that will trigger our own reporting processes. The link to the lesson can be shared with any authorities that we need to report to, and when you report a concern, you will always be kept abreast of all the follow-up action that's taken, and you'll be informed of the outcomes. You'll be advised and supported throughout any further interactions with the child concerned, and you'll be informed of any strategies that are established to manage the situation. Okay, let's go back to that definition of safeguarding and look at the specific measures that we've put in place now in response to each of those points. So, protecting children from maltreatment. We do that with our safer recruiting procedures. We provide e-safety materials to educate young people on how to keep themselves safe. We provide a secure online learning environment through the sophisticated platform that we have. We prevent impairment of children's health or development by recognising their emotional needs in addition to their educational needs. We employ only those who are sufficiently qualified to teach these young people, and we actively seek to recruit those who are most experienced in meeting the complex needs that they might present. Now, we ensure that children grow up in circumstances consistent with the provision of safe and effective care by promoting vigilance and open channels of communication and sharing of information, and we provide suitably trained individuals to handle safeguarding and child protection concerns. And we take action to enable all children to have the best outcomes by equipping you with information that's conducive to building positive relationships that will enable pupils to reach their full potential while they're here at Apricot. We work in partnership with other agencies, and we contribute to a collective response which is designed to meet the full range of needs that young people have. And we make it so easy for you to report concerns. It's as easy as falling off a log, so we hope that that's going to encourage you to do it no matter how small the concern is. Finally then, let's sum up. Safeguarding is everyone's responsibility. We take measures to safeguard our students and our teachers. We take measures to educate our students and teachers about safeguarding themselves. We do our best to equip our teachers with information that helps build positive working relationships with our students. Our recorded lessons serve as evidence when reporting concerns and dispelling unfounded allegations against you. We promote an open culture and encouraging reporting of all concerns, no matter how small they are, and all reported concerns without fail will be followed up and action will be taken and recorded and shared as appropriate. Finally, all you need to remember to do if you have a concern of a safeguarding nature is to just let us know. Call Apricot HQ at the earliest opportunity and ask for me, Kate McComb, or my colleague Rachel Hayward, and we will take it from there.